The early morning sunlight bathed John F. Kennedy International Airport in a soft golden hue, casting long shadows across the tarmac as Terminal 4 stirred to life. The terminal buzzed with a symphony of movement, the shuffle of feet, the drone of boarding announcements, the rhythmic thud of suitcase wheels on polished tile. This was New York at its most vibrant, a kaleidoscope of cultures, voices, and stories converging at a gateway to the world. Giant LED screens flashed slick ads for Blue Horizon Airlines, promising luxury and care with its glowing slogan, "Where you're always valued." But beneath the shimmer of marketing, Marcus Taylor sensed a different reality brewing, a quieter, more corrosive truth. In one corner, economy check-in counters were jammed with tired passengers, many of them juggling crying children and heavy bags. A black mother's frustration spilled over as she tried to explain that her suitcase wasn't overweight. The agent didn't even lift their gaze, muttering regulations in a mechanical tone. A few feet away, a young Latino man was pulled aside for an additional security check, despite having cleared the detector. To the untrained eye, these were isolated inconveniences, but to Marcus, they painted a far more troubling picture. Wearing a plain white t-shirt, jeans, and scuffed sneakers, Marcus blended effortlessly into the sea of travelers. No one recognized him. No one realized that he, the man moving silently through the crowd with a weathered black backpack, was the founder and majority owner of Blue Horizon Airlines. Today, he wasn't a billionaire or a titan of industry. He was simply another traveler, navigating the system he had built. He watched the interactions with careful detachment, but his gut churned with a simmering disquiet. At the polished VIP counter, Amanda Walters stood poised in her crisp uniform, her blonde hair pulled into a perfect bun. Her posture radiated professionalism, but her smirk betrayed her. It was a subtle but unmistakable sneer, a flash of condescension reserved for those she believed didn't belong. Marcus approached, presenting his ticket and ID without fanfare. Amanda's eyes darted to his clothing, and her smile stiffened. "Are you sure you're in the right line?" she asked, her tone sugar-coated with judgment. "Yes, I'm certain," Marcus answered, his voice calm but firm. She scrutinized his ID like it was counterfeit, fingers typing slowly, nails clicking against the keyboard. The seconds stretched. Murmurs stirred from nearby passengers. "This ticket looks, unusual," she said, just loud enough to spark curiosity. Marcus's patience frayed. "It's a confirmed booking, first class, seat 1A. She hesitated, then reached for the phone. Marcus exhaled through his nose, keeping his gaze steady. Moments later, a sharply dressed man emerged from the back office. Robert Klein, JFK's Blue Horizon operations manager. His stride was confident, but his eyes, like Amanda's, held something colder. "Is there a problem?" Robert asked, not at all concealing his skepticism. Amanda leaned in, voice lower now. "Just needed confirmation. Seemed out of place." Robert studied Marcus, his smile tight, hollow. Then, with a nod, he handed the ticket back. "Everything's in order. Expedite him, please." Amanda obeyed, but the warmth never returned to her voice. Robert turned to Marcus. "Enjoy your flight," he said, his handshake more obligatory than genuine. "Thank you," Marcus replied, meeting his gaze with a calm that masked a deeper, growing storm. As Marcus stepped away, the sting lingered. What had just unfolded wasn't a simple misunderstanding. It was a symptom, a crack in the foundation of the culture he had fought to build, a culture that somewhere along the way had begun to rot. Boarding the aircraft, Marcus settled into his first-class seat. The leather was supple, the service prompt, but the luxury felt hollow. Amanda passed by again, now all smiles and charm for another passenger. A wealthy executive whose designer suit and flashy watch seemed to earn him instant credibility. "A glass of the Sauvignon Blanc," And maybe some almonds, the man said with a smirk. Amanda responded with enthusiasm, lingering just long enough to laugh at his joke, her demeanor worlds away from the cold distance she had shown Marcus. As the plane began taxiing, Marcus stared out the window, watching the airport shrink beneath him. His thoughts were no longer about the destination, but about the journey ahead. A journey into the heart of a system he realized he no longer fully recognized. Blue Horizon was supposed to be a different kind of airline, inclusive, respectful, built on dignity, and yet here he was, a stranger in his own creation. The time for observation was over. The time for change had come, and Marcus was ready to tear the curtain down, no matter what it revealed behind it. Marcus watched Amanda linger near Porter's seat, her laughter ringing hollow as she complimented his tie and basked in his approval. Her smile was radiant, her demeanor suddenly transformed, bright, eager, and fully engaged. Marcus raised his hand politely to signal her attention. When she turned, her expression shifted. The light drained from her eyes, replaced by a steely neutrality that seemed to brace against something unpleasant. "Yes," she asked curtly. "A glass of water, please," Marcus replied evenly. Amanda hesitated, then gave a clipped nod. "I'll get that for you in just a moment." But the moment dragged. Marcus watched as she attended to another passenger first, retrieving a blanket and chatting briefly before vanishing into the galley. His patience held, but his frustration was smoldering just beneath the surface. When Amanda finally returned, she placed a glass of water on his tray table with mechanical precision, avoiding eye contact and offering no words. "Thank you," Marcus said, his tone composed but firm. She didn't respond. She turned and walked away, her indifference louder than any insult. Across the aisle, a woman in a tailored navy dress and pearls glanced over, her eyes sweeping Marcus with mild suspicion. Her stare wasn't overtly hostile, just curious, laced with a quiet sense of judgment, as if trying to solve a puzzle. What was a man dressed so plainly doing in first class? Marcus exhaled slowly, his mind churning. Every cold glance, every dismissive action was adding weight to something far more profound than personal slight. It was the echo of a culture he'd once believed he could change. A softer voice broke his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir, do you need anything else?" He looked up to see Linda Harper, a younger flight attendant whose eyes held warmth and sincerity. Unlike Amanda, her tone wasn't rehearsed. It was rooted in real care. "No, I'm fine, thank you," Marcus said, his voice gentler. Linda lingered for a second. "If there's anything you need, just let me know. I'll be around." As she moved down the aisle, Marcus observed her. She addressed passengers with consistent kindness, regardless of their appearance or status. There was a quiet dignity in the way she moved. Later, Marcus raised a hand as Linda passed. "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah?" "I need you." "Of course," she said, pausing. "You seem different, more attentive. How do you manage to stay that way?" Linda glanced over her shoulder, ensuring Amanda wasn't within earshot. "It's not always easy," she said softly. "This job has pressure, and not everyone handles it well." "What kind of pressure?" She leaned in, her voice dropping. "Working under Robert Klein isn't easy. He has favorites. If you're not one of them, you're expendable." Her words landed with weight. This wasn't just about a few bad apples. This was a deeper, structural problem, a culture driven by fear and favoritism. "Thank you for your honesty," Marcus said. Linda smiled faintly. "Some of us still care about doing things the right way." As she walked away, Marcus leaned back, heart pounding beneath a composed surface. Linda represented everything Blue Horizon should be, but her quiet resilience exposed how rare those values had become. Amanda returned, this time with a tray of meals. "Here's your entree," she said tersely, placing a plate on his table with careless speed. Marcus glanced down. Chicken. Not the steak he had pre-ordered. "This isn't what I requested," he said. "We ran out of steak. You'll have to make do," Amanda snapped, already turning. "Could you check again?" "I confirmed my selection when I booked." She sighed loudly and walked off without a response. Around him, heads turned. A few passengers took subtle notice, their curiosity sharpening. Linda looked over from across the cabin. She appeared uneasy but stayed in place, likely wary of Amanda's reaction. Minutes later, Amanda returned to the galley. Marcus overheard her sharp words to another attendant. "I don't care if he's upset, just get through the service." Her tone was icy, dismissive. Marcus shifted in his seat, eyes following Amanda as she snapped orders with surgical cruelty. Her authority didn't just command respect, it instilled fear. "Harper, you're taking too long," Amanda barked moments later, ensuring everyone nearby could hear. "These passengers don't have all day." "I'm making sure their requests are met," Linda replied, her tone even but unwavering. Amanda rolled her eyes and strode off. The cabin felt heavier, tenser. Morale among the crew was visibly frayed. Marcus retrieved a small notebook from his backpack and began jotting down observations. Names, incidents, tone, behavior. The picture it painted was damning, a clear pattern of institutional rot. When Linda returned, she bent closer. "I'm really sorry about earlier," she said. "I'll see if I can find you something else." "It's not your fault," Marcus replied, lowering his voice. "But is this normal?" Linda hesitated. "It depends who's in charge. Amanda's not the worst. She's just following Robert's lead. He protects his favorites. It trickles down." Her words hit harder than any insult Amanda had thrown. This was no longer a matter of one bad employee. It was a system, and the rot started at the top. "Thank you for your honesty," Marcus said. She offered a weary smile before walking away. Marcus leaned back, heart pounding. He had come to observe. Now he was compelled to act. The problems were deeper than he had feared. This wasn't about trimming a few branches. It was time to confront the root. The plane drifted silently over the Midwest. Outside, clouds stretched like fields of cotton. Inside, tension had become the atmosphere itself. Amanda moved like a storm, barking orders, correcting minor infractions with public humiliation. "That's not how we fold the blankets," she snapped at a younger attendant. "If you can't get it right, don't bother." The young attendant mumbled an apology, eyes on the floor. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. This wasn't leadership. It was intimidation. It was fear dressed as authority. He raised his hand. "Excuse me," he said as Amanda passed. "I'd like to speak with the flight manager." Amanda's brow lifted. "Why, I have a concern." Her lips curled into a tight smile. "That won't be necessary. Everything is under control." "I'd still like to speak with them," Marcus replied, calm but unyielding. "I'll let them know," Amanda said, but her clipped tone made it clear she had no intention of following through. Marcus sat back, the decision already forming in his mind. The next steps would not be quiet. Change was coming, and it would begin with truth. Amanda strode away, her heels clicking against the carpet, making no attempt to follow up on Marcus's request. He sat back, exhaling slowly as another wave of patience washed over him, thinning with every moment. His gaze drifted toward Linda, who caught his eye. Her expression said everything she couldn't, an unspoken apology born not of guilt but powerlessness. She wanted to help, she simply couldn't. The puzzle was coming together. Everything Linda had shared echoed back now with chilling clarity. Robert Klein's name surfacing time and again, each time wrapped in Amanda's thinly veiled contempt. Robert wouldn't waste time on someone like that, she had said earlier, her voice thick with disdain. The words had been revealing, a window into a culture driven not by merit or integrity, but by favoritism and appearances. Suddenly, a stir broke the cabin's stillness. Voices from the rear rose in panic. A passenger had collapsed near the economy restroom. Footsteps quickened. Fear spread like a ripple. Moments later, Linda rushed by, focused and composed. Marcus turned to see her kneel beside an older man, ashen-faced and trembling. Another attendant called for medical assistance over the intercom, while Linda tried to stabilize the man's breathing. Marcus stood instinctively and moved toward them. "Can I help?" he asked. Linda looked up, gratitude flickering in her eyes. "We might need more space. First class would be better." Before Marcus could answer, Amanda appeared, heels slicing through the air like blades. She took in the scene with a single glance and shook her head. "He stays here. We can't disrupt the cabin." Linda stared in disbelief. "But Amanda—" "He needs room to lie down." Amanda's tone cut like glass. "And what will the other passengers think? Handle it here." That was it. Marcus stepped forward, voice cool and unmistakably authoritative. "His health matters more than optics. First class makes the most sense." Amanda turned slowly. Her smile was gone. "I appreciate your concerns, sir, but we have protocols." "Protocols that prioritize perception over people," Marcus countered. "Pickup set." For a moment, Amanda faltered, but then she straightened. "Do what you can here," she barked at Linda and stormed off. The man was eventually stabilized, thanks to a doctor on board, but the incident had scraped another layer off the facade. This wasn't just about Amanda's refusal. It was about a pervasive, toxic culture that valued image more than humanity. Back in his seat, Marcus stared out the window as the LA skyline bathed in a soft amber glow. The city's lights twinkled like distant promises, but he wasn't dazzled. He was focused. Every interaction, every condescending remark, every act of passive cruelty had only solidified what he already feared. This wasn't an isolated problem. It was systemic. As the aircraft touched down and taxied to the gate, Marcus remained seated, gathering his thoughts. He let the other passengers disembark, watching Amanda at the front, her smile a mask she had worn so often it no longer looked human. When he finally approached, her expression tightened. "Safe travels," she said, the words stiff. "I need to speak with Robert Klein," Marcus said evenly. Amanda blinked, caught off guard. "He's busy, but I'll try." She disappeared into the galley and picked up the phone. Marcus heard only fragments, but the contempt in her voice was unmistakable. "Yes, he insists. I don't know what his problem is, but maybe just get it over with." Minutes later, Marcus was ushered into a sleek office near the terminal. Robert Klein stood to greet him, polished, composed, rehearsed. The room smelled like cold ambition and expensive cologne. "Mr. Taylor," he said, extending a hand, "Amanda mentioned you wanted to speak. What seems to be the concern?" Marcus shook his hand and sat down. "I want to address the behavior I witnessed on this flight, from your staff and how passengers were treated." Robert offered a thin smile. "Blue Horizon holds itself to the highest standards. If there were any inconveniences—" "This isn't about inconveniences," Marcus interrupted. "It's about disrespect, bullying, and negligence, both toward passengers and staff." Robert raised an eyebrow. "That's a strong claim. We pride ourselves on premium service." "That's part of the problem," Marcus said. "You focus on appearances instead of substance. Some people are clearly valued more than others. Robert's smile froze, the mask slipping. "Let's be honest," he said. "Our VIP experience is tailored for a certain clientele. You don't often see individuals like yourself in first class." The implication struck like a slap. Marcus's posture didn't change, but his hand tightened around the chair's arm. "What exactly do you mean by that?" he asked, voice even. Robert hesitated, then pressed on. "Executives, professionals, people who carry themselves a certain way." It was prejudice dressed in protocol. Marcus stood, his height casting a long shadow. "Thank you for your honesty," he said. "It's made the depth of the problem clearer. Mr. Taylor, if you're unhappy with your experience, we can offer some compensation. I'm not interested in money. I'm interested in fixing the culture of this company, starting with those who perpetuate it." Robert chuckled, a dry sound. "I think you might be overestimating your influence." Marcus looked him dead in the eye. "You have no idea who I am, do you?" A pause. "Should I?" "You'll find out soon enough," Marcus said, and walked out. By the time he stepped onto the terminal floor, he wasn't angry. He was clear. This had gone far beyond personal insult. It was time to dismantle what had been built on arrogance and fear. The next morning, Marcus convened an emergency meeting at Blue Horizon's New York headquarters. Department heads, regional managers, every voice that carried weight within the company. It was time to break the silence and expose the rot. As the LA skyline glowed behind his hotel window, Marcus sat in reflection. Robert's arrogance was expected. What chilled him was the ease with which that arrogance had become policy. He could have revealed his identity in that office, but he didn't. That moment wasn't about shock. It was about clarity. He picked up his phone and dialed Linda Harper. "Linda, it's Marcus. I need your help." There was a pause. "What do you need me to do?" "Information. Everything you can find about Robert. How he manages, how he treats people, what he hides. But be careful." Linda hesitated, then spoke. "People are afraid of him. They won't talk easily." "That's why we do this the right way," Marcus replied. "Because this isn't about one flight. It's about the future of everything we've built." The fight had begun, not in the skies, but in the soul of a company. And Marcus Taylor wasn't backing down. Over the following days, Linda proved to be more than just a brave ally. She became Marcus's eyes and ears inside a system designed to silence dissent. Carefully, discreetly, she reached out to colleagues, collecting stories that revealed the scope of Robert Klein's damage. What she uncovered was damning. Gate agents passed over for promotions despite years of spotless service. Staff singled out for public humiliation in meetings, berated by Robert over minor errors. The office culture had calcified into one ruled by fear and favoritism. Linda recounted one conversation from a gate agent who said, "No one challenges Robert. He tears people down in front of everyone. We're just trying to keep our heads down." Marcus scribbled in his notebook, every detail feeding a growing resolve. "Anything about money?" he asked during one of their late-night calls. Linda hesitated. "Not direct evidence, but there's talk about questionable expenses, vendors billing for vague services connected to Robert somehow. I'll try to dig deeper." "Just be careful," Marcus said. "Don't risk your position." Despite the warning, Linda pressed forward. Her persistence led to a startling revelation. During a shift, she overheard Robert and another manager discussing payments made to a third-party contractor. The amounts were substantial, but the listed services were suspiciously vague. Linda managed to discreetly photograph several unattended records showing a pattern of inflated invoices and vendor ties directly linked to Robert. Linda managed to discreetly photograph several unattacked documents, records showing illegally linked to Robert. When she sent the images to Marcus, his blood ran cold. This wasn't just about abusive leadership anymore. It was corruption, systemic, deliberate. Marcus cross-referenced the documents with Blue Horizon's financials. The paper trail was damning. Robert had funneled company money into sham contracts, channeling funds to companies either connected to him personally or through mutual beneficiaries. It was an intricate web of fraud masked by bureaucracy. "This isn't unethical," Marcus muttered to himself. "It's criminal." He leaned back, eyes heavy with the weight of responsibility. This was no longer a moral reckoning. It was a legal one. The next morning, Marcus contacted Blue Horizon's legal department. He ordered a confidential internal audit. Everything had to be airtight. No leaks, no warnings. If Robert got wind, he'd bury the truth before it could see daylight. That night, Marcus stared out his hotel window, the glow of Los Angeles stretching across the horizon. He had delayed revealing his identity, and it had paid off. By building a case brick by brick, he was now ready to bring the entire rotten structure down. The following evening, as he reviewed the evidence once more, a notification lit up his phone. Texts from Linda. "Amanda's watching me. I don't know how much longer I can do this." Marcus called immediately. "Amanda suspects something," Linda whispered. "She's given me double the workload and trying to isolate me. I overheard her on the phone with Robert. She told him you've been asking too many questions." Marcus's jaw tightened. "What did he say?" "He told her to keep you under watch and to make sure I stay away from you." Marcus's pulse quickened. "Stay quiet. Stay safe. If you're in danger, walk away." "I'll be careful," Linda promised. "But Marcus, you need to act soon. He's getting suspicious." The next day, a call came from a blocked number. Marcus answered. "I don't know if I should be doing this," the voice said nervously, "but I've seen too much." "Who is this?" "Carter. I'm a junior manager at JFK. I've worked under Robert for 2 years. I know what he's been hiding." Marcus kept his voice calm. "Tell me." Carter hesitated. "He's got people rewriting reports, deleting complaints. He has insiders in HR. Anyone who tries to report him is either transferred or pushed out quietly." "Why are you coming forward now?" "Because I heard about you, and I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing decent people get buried so he can thrive." Marcus closed his eyes. This was it. The crack becoming a rupture. "Thank you," Marcus said. "I'll fix this. But I need your help. We have to move quietly. He can't see this coming." That night, Marcus instructed legal and HR to begin a full internal audit. All the evidence Linda had collected, the documents he had reviewed, Carter's testimony, it was enough to act decisively. He also sent a company-weighty memo calling an emergency meeting in New York. No one would be excused, especially Robert Klein. As he prepared his presentation, a knock came at his door. It was Linda. "I heard about the meeting," she said. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus nodded. "I have to be." Linda's voice was soft but steady. "He won't go down without a fight. Then we won't give him a choice." She smiled faintly. "You've already changed something you know. People are starting to believe again." Marcus watched her leave, then turned back to his laptop. The path ahead would be brutal, but he was ready. Blue Horizon's Manhattan headquarters gleamed like a cathedral of success. The glass towers reflected the rising sun, a beacon of the company's polished image, but inside, the atmosphere was far from calm. Executives filled the main conference room. Whispers and theories floated around, fueled by the vagueness of the meeting's agenda. At the head of the table sat Robert Klein, immaculately dressed, wearing a smirk he'd cultivated through years of unchecked power. Marcus entered quietly, Dressed in his usual understated style, he carried only a folder. No one gave him a second glance. Robert rose. "Let's begin. I was told there are some concerns. Please enlighten us." He gestured without even looking. Marcus stood slowly. He surveyed the room, faces both curious and skeptical. "Thank you," he began. "Over the past several days, I've investigated operations at JFK. What I found was more than inefficiency. It was a culture, one built on fear, favoritism, and exploitation." He opened the folder and slid the documents to the center of the table. "This is more than anecdote. These are employee testimonies, financial reports, vendor audits, all pointing to a rot at the center of our operations." The room hushed. Some executives picked up the documents, reading in silence. Robert's expression shifted. "Bias, favoritism. These are serious claims. Do you have evidence or just grievances?" "I have both," Marcus replied, "including vendor contracts with direct ties to your personal network." Robert's face stiffened. "This is absurd. This is a witch hunt." Marcus didn't flinch. "You said people like me don't understand this business. What I understand is this. Blue Horizon was meant to serve everyone, not just the people you think deserve it." The room was silent. Robert rose slowly. "You don't belong here. You're a disruptor. This company runs on stability. You don't get it." "You're right," Marcus said. "I don't get how a man entrusted with leadership can use that trust to enrich himself and abuse others." "You're bluffing." Marcus met his eyes. "Then allow me to introduce myself properly. I'm Marcus Taylor, founder, majority owner, and as of today, the man cleaning house." The silence was seismic. Robert's mask shattered. Linda, seated quietly at the end of the room, smiled for the first time that morning. As the process tugged on for the team, she ceased. The reckoning had begun. Robert shrugged, trying to maintain his composure as if innocence could be performed. "Let's not pretend this is about anything other than you trying to punch above your weight," he said, voice low but laced with condescension. The tension in the room peaked. Marcus glanced toward Linda, who gave him a small, encouraging nod. Taking a steadying breath, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple business card. "Since we're questioning credentials," he said, walking to the head of the table. He placed the card directly in front of Robert. The embossed gold letters shimmered under the fluorescent lights. "Marcus Taylor, CEO and owner, Blue Horizon Airlines." End of. The room exploded into stunned murmurs. Chairs shifted, brows raised, mouths opened. Robert's face went pale, his confidence crumbling in real time. Marcus straightened, his voice rising above the confusion. "I built this company from the ground up. I know exactly what it takes to lead it, and I also know when someone is dismantling the very principles we were founded on." He turned to the others in the room, sweeping them with his gaze. "This isn't about a personal vendetta. It's about integrity, respect, equity. This airline was meant to treat everyone with dignity, from our employees to our passengers. And what I've discovered is that those ideals have been ignored." The murmuring died down. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Robert tried to recover. His lips parted, but no words came. Marcus didn't wait. "I'll be addressing each of these issues personally," he continued, "starting with a full audit of JFK's operations. If there's anything you'd like to say in your defense, Robert, now's the time." Silence. Marcus stepped back, his presence commanding. "This company changes today. If that's a problem for anyone, the door's open." The meeting concluded with a sense of seismic shift. The balance of power had moved. Robert sat, frozen, his gaze fixed on the card like it was a verdict. Linda sat at the far end, flooded with a mix of disbelief and pride. She had suspected Marcus was different. But this? "You're the owner of Blue Horizon?" one department head asked in disbelief. "Yes," Marcus replied. "And I'm here because what I saw was unacceptable." Robert stirred, his voice dry. "This is absurd. You can't possibly believe." Marcus cut him off. "I believe the financial records. I believe the employees you intimidated. I believe the toxic culture you created." He slid a thick folder onto the table. "Inside is every contract, every testimony, every piece of evidence we gathered. Anyone who doubts is free to review it." Robert's face flushed. "Do you know what it takes to keep a company of this size running? Sometimes hard decisions have to be made." "Exploitation isn't a hard decision," Marcus snapped. "It's corruption." Robert stood abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. "You wouldn't have this company without me. You need me." "What I need," Marcus said quietly, "is a company that doesn't run on fear." He turned to the group. "Effective immediately, Robert Klein is suspended. An independent audit team will investigate every aspect of JFK's operations. And this isn't about one man. It's about rebuilding what we lost." Gasps filled the room. Some looked relieved, others uncertain. Linda remained quiet, but her eyes sparkled with a quiet fire. Robert, now red-faced, glared. "You're making a mistake. This company won't survive without me." "We'll survive just fine," Marcus said, "and we'll do it without the fear you planted." Robert stormed out, the door slamming behind him. Silence followed. Marcus turned back. "For those of you who've worked under this regime, I want you to know that change is here. We will rebuild this company into what it was always meant to be." Some nodded, a few even smiled. Hope stirred. "This is only the beginning," Marcus continued. "I'll be overseeing the restructuring process myself, starting with an open forum where every employee will have the chance to speak. Your voices matter. You matter." As the room emptied, one by one, Marcus stayed behind. Linda lingered. "You did it," she said softly. "No," Marcus replied. "This is just step one. There's a long road ahead." Later that afternoon, Marcus met with frontline employees, Linda, gate agents, maintenance staff. The setting was intimate, tense, familiar faces worn from years of fear and fatigue. "Thank you for coming," Marcus began. "This company is nothing without you, and I want to know what's held you back." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Linda stepped forward. "It's fear," she said. "Fear of speaking up, fear of being replaced." Another voice added, "Managers like Robert made us feel invisible." A flight attendant nodded. "Hard work didn't matter unless you were someone's favorite." Marcus listened, not as an executive, as a human being. "And now," he said, "we're rebuilding this culture from the ground up. We'll implement equity training, leadership development, and a protected whistleblower system." Then he turned to Linda. "And some changes start now. Linda Harper, you've demonstrated resilience, integrity, and leadership. I'm promoting you to a supervisory role." The room erupted in applause. Quiet, tentative, but real. For the first time in a long time, hope wasn't just a feeling. It was a plan in motion. Linda's eyes widened, the weight of Marcus's words sinking in. A blend of surprise and gratitude played across her face. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The room filled with quiet applause. It wasn't just about her promotion, it was about recognition, validation, a symbol that change had truly begun. But not everyone welcomed it. Word of Marcus's reforms traveled fast, reaching the boardroom corridors and whispering into the ears of those still loyal to Robert Klein. Though suspended, Robert's influence lingered like a storm cloud. He wasted no time reaching out to shareholders, painting Marcus as a reckless idealist poised to jeopardize profits and alienate longtime partners. A few days later, the tension culminated in a tense boardroom meeting. Marcus stood at the head of a long table, surrounded by skeptical faces, each demanding answers. "These reforms aren't a liability," he said, his voice unwavering. "They're an investment. Loyalty doesn't come from pricing alone. It comes from trust, respect. We're not just selling flights. We're shaping experiences. We're building loyalty." The director leaned forward, eyebrows furrowed. "And what about the cost? Training, audits, new leadership? These aren't small changes. Can you guarantee they'll pay off?" Marcus paused. His thoughts flickered to his own journey, to the doors that had been slammed in his face, to the voices that doubted him because of how he looked or spoke. That pain had taught him something invaluable. "No, I can't guarantee an instant return," he said, "but I can guarantee this. If we stay on the path we've been on, we'll lose more than profits. We'll lose our people, our soul, and that's something we can never buy back." Silence stretched. Then slowly, one by one, heads began to nod. The mood shifted, from doubt to reluctant consideration. Afterward, Marcus returned to his office, where Linda was waiting. "How'd it go?" she asked. "They're not fully convinced," Marcus admitted. "But I think we're starting to turn the tide." She nodded. "We believe in you. And we believe this can be something better." He smiled, quiet but resolute. "That's what keeps me going." Days later, in a packed conference hall buzzing with media, employees, and shareholders, Marcus prepared to speak publicly for the first time since the company's overhaul. Journalists lined the back wall. Cameras blinked. Linda stood to the side. No longer just an employee, but a symbol of the new era. Marcus stepped up. "Thank you all for being here," he began. "Today isn't just about where we are. It's about where we're going." He spoke of broken promises and the commitment to repair them. He outlined each reform: audits, leadership reviews, employee forums. Applause broke out, but there was still tension in the air. Then, through the doors walked Robert Klein, dressed immaculately. His presence alone shifted the room's atmosphere. He sat in the front row, eyes trained on Marcus. After the speech, Robert stood, smirking. "With all due respect, Mr. Taylor," he began, oozing mock civility, "these reforms, are they about real change or just an image campaign? You've rattled our operations, strained our finances. Are you fixing the company or feeding your own ego?" The room tensed. Marcus remained calm. "This isn't about me. It's about accountability. Something you ignored." He held up a stack of documents. "These are vendor contracts, inflated, unauthorized, signed by you. And these," he raised a second folder, "are testimonies from employees you intimidated and exploited." Cameras clicked. Whispers grew louder. "You can call it a stunt if you like," Marcus said, "but facts are facts, and your era of unchecked power ends today." Robert opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Linda stepped onto the stage. Her voice was soft, then grew stronger. "For 6 years, I watched incredible people be pushed aside, afraid to speak. Today, I speak for all of them. We believe in this change, and we believe in Marcus Taylor." Thunderous applause filled the hall. Then came the twist. One of the largest shareholders, silent until now, stood. "I was hesitant, but the evidence is undeniable. I stand behind Marcus Taylor's vision." That was the final blow. Marcus turned to Robert. "Effective immediately, you're terminated from Blue Horizon. Any misused funds will be redirected to rebuilding our workforce." Robert's face contorted with rage, but he said nothing. He stormed out. Applause followed. Marcus returned to the mic. Today isn't about punishment. It's about rebirth. Blue Horizon will stand for something again. For fairness, for excellence, for everyone. The crowd rose, the applause thundered. But the victory came with its price. Days later, headlines exploded, from visionary to villain, accusations of reckless spending, favoritism, and secrecy. Marcus sat in his office, headlines flashing across his screen. He expected backlash, but not like this. Linda entered, a folder in hand. "It's getting worse," she said, laying employee rumors and fears before him. "People don't know what to believe." Marcus leaned back, eyes closed. "Robert's trying to kill this with doubt." Linda paused. "Then let's fight with truth. You said transparency was key. Maybe it's time to show everything." Her words hit home. Marcus opened his eyes, sharper now. "You're right. He wants shadows. We'll answer with light." The next morning, Marcus made a bold announcement, a live open meeting. The atmosphere in the Blue Horizon conference hall was electric. Employees packed the room. Board members lined the front, and the back rows brimmed with reporters and camera crews. The tension was thick with anticipation. At the center of it all stood Marcus Taylor, stoic, poised, and more resolute than ever. "Over the past week," he began, "a storm of accusations has surrounded my leadership. Today, I'm not just addressing them. I'm dismantling them with facts." He clicked a remote, and the massive screen behind him lit up with charts, audits, and transaction logs. These are independently audited financials showing where every cent has gone since the moment I took charge. There's no misdirection here, only truth. He detailed each reform not as a savior but as a leader owning responsibility. Employee testimonials flashed on screen, stories of renewed morale, of no longer fearing the next shift. "We aren't hiding," Marcus said. "That's why this room is open to all, media, staff, and board. We confront challenges together, and we rebuild transparently." But just as the applause began, a stir at the back turned heads. Robert Klein entered, flanked by two suited men, holding a thick folder with theatrical confidence. "Mr. Taylor," Robert said smoothly, "surely you didn't think this conversation would happen without me. I have proof of your deception, personal investments masked as company expenses." The room froze. Marcus didn't blink. "And where did these documents come from, Robert?" he asked, stepping forward. "Sources," Robert replied smugly. "Or forgeries," Marcus countered, "because I've traced every manipulated leak, every anonymous email, right back to your devices. And I have witnesses who will testify you offered bribes for false claims." Gasps rippled through the room. Linda stepped up. "I worked under Robert Klein. I know what he built, a culture of fear. But Marcus gave us a reason to hope again, and now I'm standing up because I know what truth looks like." One board member stood. "I've reviewed what's presented here. I stand with Marcus Taylor." Applause erupted. Robert's composure fractured. Without another word, he stormed out, leaving behind the last of his influence. Marcus turned back. "This isn't the end. This is the beginning. Blue Horizon will lead with integrity, equality, and truth." The standing ovation that followed wasn't for a speech. It was for a new chapter. But even as Marcus exhaled, the backlash came hard. Days later, headlines accused him of secrecy, favoritism, and reckless decisions. Anonymous sources, twisted narratives. Robert's smear campaign had evolved. Marcus sat in his office, weariness setting in. Linda entered, placing a folder on his desk. "Employees are getting scared," she said quietly. "They don't know what to believe." He stared at the headlines, the character assassination, the twisting of every decision he had made in good faith. Then let's make the truth undeniable, he said. He scheduled an open meeting with media, board members, employees, transparency front and center. When the day came, the air was taut with expectation. Marcus stood holding a flash drive, small but loaded with impact. What you're about to see, he began, is the unfiltered truth, not spin, not rumors. He inserted the drive and a video played. Grainy footage from a private meeting years ago. Robert Klein, dismissive and smug, directing managers to falsify numbers and funnel discretionary funds into shell companies. The room was silent. Board members exchanged looks of growing fury. Another slide followed, detailed records from a 5-year audit tracing every misused cent. One board member stood, voice shaking with anger. This is betrayal. I move to sever all ties with Robert Klein, permanently. One by one, the others agreed. Robert, seated near the back, rose, pale, diminished. You can't do this. I built this company. No, Marcus said. The people did. You just exploited them. And now that ends. Robert left, silent and broken. Marcus turned to the room. Now we move forward. He clicked to the final slide. Horizon for all. This isn't just about fixing. It's about elevating. Starting today, leadership training, anonymous reporting, and employee councils will ensure every voice is heard. Applause echoed, growing louder with every detail he shared. Scholarships, benefits, fairness. Linda approached, eyes bright. You did it. Marcus shook his head gently. No. We did, and we're just getting started. As the room emptied, Marcus lingered by the window, city lights flickering outside. He still felt the weight of what lay ahead, but it no longer pressed him down. It propelled him forward, into a new dawn for Blue Horizon. Blue Horizon was finally becoming the airline Marcus Taylor had always envisioned, a company where people came first, and profit was no longer the only measure of success. As Robert Klein's fall from grace exploded across media channels, headlines dissected every dark corner of his legacy: financial fraud, manipulation, and a toxic culture that had festered for years. Analysts debated Marcus's bold reforms. Some remained skeptical, but many began to see the possibility of real, lasting change. While the world focused on the public scandal, something deeper was shifting within Blue Horizon's walls. In a quiet meeting room at the JFK branch, Marcus met with those who had endured the worst of Robert's leadership: flight attendants, gate agents, and maintenance workers. These were the voices he needed to hear. "Thank you for coming," Marcus said sincerely. "I wanted this to be private, because this conversation isn't about press releases. It's about truth. Your truth." The room was still until Linda Harper spoke. "For a long time we felt invisible. We were only numbers on paper, but now there's hope. It's fragile, but it's real." Another voice joined in. "We want to believe, but there's still fear. Speaking up used to mean risking everything." Marcus nodded, absorbing every word. "I won't lie to you. Change takes time. But fear will no longer have a seat at this table. And Linda, your strength has been a beacon in this storm. I want you to join leadership. This company needs your voice." Linda's breath caught. Thank you. I won't let you down." They shared more, painful stories, small wins, new hopes. Marcus listened, took notes, asked questions. These weren't just complaints. They were the blueprints for a better future. That night, in the stillness of his office, Marcus looked at a photo from years ago, a younger version of himself standing outside a small rented office, filled with ambition and unshakable belief. He remembered being dismissed, doubted, underestimated. That pain had carved the man he had become. Somewhere along the road, he'd trusted the wrong people, let ideals slip beneath the weight of expansion. But now, the truth had been laid bare, and with it, a fire was reignited. "This was never just about me," he whispered. "It's about what we all stand for." The next morning, Marcus addressed the company live, standing before the iconic Blue Horizon logo. "Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of why we started. But today, we return to our roots. This is a place where fairness and opportunity aren't just ideals. They're reality." He unveiled the Horizons for All program, scholarships, improved benefits, and a representative council to ensure every voice mattered. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support poured in, not just from employees and passengers, but from competitors who saw in Marcus a leader reshaping the industry. Later, the company celebrated. The grand ballroom glittered with banners reading "Horizons for All." Employees, shareholders, and loyal customers mingled, the air filled with laughter and hope. Marcus lingered at the back, quietly observing until Linda approached. "They're ready for you," she said, smiling. On stage, Marcus paused to take it all in. Today isn't just about a new program. It's about a promise to stand by our people, to do right even when it's hard, and to make business a force for good. Applause rose, but he lifted a hand. Let's not forget, it was the brave voices, not the powerful ones, that brought us here. Those who stood up for justice when it wasn't easy. That's who we are now. That's who we'll always be. As applause roared again, an older gentleman approached Marcus afterward. "You don't know me," he said, "but I was on that flight, the one where it all started. I saw how you stood up. For yourself. For us. What you're doing here, it matters." The man shook Marcus' hand, strong and sincere. "Keep going," he said. "Don't stop." Marcus watched him disappear into the crowd, his words echoing deep within. That night, alone in his office, Marcus stood before the window, the city glowing beneath him. He remembered every obstacle, every betrayal, every breakthrough. There was still work ahead, more battles to fight, more trust to earn, but the vision was clearer than ever. Blue Horizon wasn't just an airline. It was a symbol of what could happen when people stood together, when courage trumped complacency, when empathy became policy. Marcus smiled as the city lights danced on the glass. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning for someone else too. Because change doesn't start with the loudest voice in the room. It starts with the one willing to speak when silence feels safest. So ask yourself, what truth are you ready to stand up for? What change would you fight for? Let us know. And join us again for more stories that challenge, inspire, and remind us of the strength we carry within.